There we go. We are live, coming to you from the garage of your Lake Fork Guide. How are you guys doing tonight? Hope everybody had a great turkey day yesterday. We'll give it a few minutes, let some folks get in and get gathered. We're going to talk about top 5 baits. I'm going to answer your questions. Anything else you may have on your mind, we can talk about. You guys want to talk about football, talk about how terrible the Cowboys are, whatever we want to do, we can do it. Here we go. Got a couple comments showing up. Somebody said, what happened? I don't know what happened. What is up? Ben Bossy, Parker Brown, Clayton Beagle, and Buzzy Gruen. Everybody is in the house. Good to see all y'all. We'll let a few more minutes go by. If you guys want to talk about any topic, go ahead and throw it in there. Gucci gang, Gucci gang, Gucci gang, Gucci gang. You didn't think I knew what you're talking about. I got you, though. Yeah, boy. Whatever y'all want to holler at me about, come on, let's talk about it for a few minutes. What do I think is happening at Lake Athens? Going there tomorrow. What up? What up, Jamie Uvalli? Bobby Spang, howdy to you. Lake Athens, I don't know, bro. I ain't been to Lake Athens in, man, I couldn't tell you last time I went to Lake Athens. Shout out, holler. Shout out to Clayton Beagle. Clayton Beagle, where you at? I don't know what's going on at Lake Athens. What up, Jay Laugh? Good to see you. So, I'm sorry. If I had to take a guess, man, I mean, Lake Athens for me is always about grass points unless they're spawning. If they're not spawning, I hit the grass points first, and then if that doesn't work out, I hit some offshore structure type stuff, some deeper points, some deeper ledges, stuff way out in the middle of the lake. So, that's kind of my go-to on Lake Athens, but I don't fish it very often. I used to fish it quite a bit more, but I don't fish it very much anymore. Clayton Beagle says he's a big fan, man. We appreciate you, and I'm a big fan of you, Clayton Beagle. I appreciate you watching, buddy. Sean Allen in the house. What's up, buddy? Good to see you. How about Fork? Any fish still shallow, or are they all out deep? No, negative. There are plenty of fish shallow. We're kind of going into that phase. We can just kind of give a brief overview on what's happening on Fork. So, on Fork, the offshore structure fish that set up every fall, man, they're fully there. There is giant schools. You just have to hit the right structure at the right time. And there is some mega schools of big bass out there. Now, shallow fish, what's happening there is these shad are coming out. They're coming out of the creeks. So we're starting to see the birds and the big schools of threadfin shad move out. Now, that doesn't mean that all the bass leave. There are still big gizzard shad up shallow. There's still a lot of brim up shallow that will remain there throughout the winter. So the fish that are still in the backs of the creeks should be resident fish at this point. Those fish that are still left in the very backs of the creeks, maybe a few will leave, but for the most part, those bass are going to be there all winter long. So that's a beautiful thing in its own way, because if you find an area that's in the back of a creek, shallow water with grass that's holding fish, you should literally be able to catch fish there throughout the entire winter. So that's an awesome deal. It's a good time to start running a lot of that stuff and finding those fish to set you up for some great winter fishing. So that's kind of what's going on. That's the state of Lake Fork at the moment. A lot of my better fishing is coming offshore right now, but we are still, especially in the evening, like last minute, last hour, 2 hours of the day, we're crushing them up shallow right before dark. So, Drew Dempsey says, great info, man. Thank you. I fish kayaks, so really have to target where I launch. Yep, Drew Dempsey, I understand that. Getting out there in a kayak. Somebody asked about the Yamaha show, man. That Yamaha show, best motor in the business, right there. That's the best motor in the game, right there, boys. That one's a year old. This boat's a year old. It is for sale. So if anybody's looking for a boat, hit me up, text me. We can talk about pricing. Old Red behind me there, she is for sale right now. So. Somebody says they fished a tournament on Fork 2 weeks ago, caught 6 and 8 pounders shallow in the slot. That's right, there's a lot of big fish up shallow. All right. We got quite a few people in here. What are they hitting in the shallows? Well, that's a great question, Drew Dempsey. That is a perfect segue into this week's top 5 baits. So here we go. Top 5 baits. So we want to talk about shallow first. Shallow first. Now, I honestly need more than 5 baits because we could probably do 5 for shallow and 5 for deep. But I'm just going to do a couple shallow, and I got 3 that I'm going to talk about out deep. This bait right here, will be tied on from now until next March sometime. So 3/8 ounce white chatterbait live magic shad. I will have that tied on the deck of my boat every single day. When you get cold fronts, they still bite it. You can grind it out with them. On good days, they bite it more aggressively. It's a hard bait to beat, man. It's a really good one. So 3/8 ounce white chatterbait, live magic shad on the back, always going to be there for me. As the water gets colder and we get these post-frontal days, this one comes more into play day after day, and that is Wacky Rig Trick Worm. That is Watermelon Gold. Watermelon Gold and Watermelon Magic have been really good for me the last couple weeks. So we got that going on in the shallow water as well. I'll add you one more bonus bait for this week. The lipless crankbait. The lipless crankbait is obviously a standard on fork. It's a standby. We throw it year after year after year, and it always catches fish in the cold time of year. So lipless crankbaits you can start throwing. You can go ahead and throw your red ones now if you want to, but the gold and shad patterns are still effective as well. So just kind of play with the colors, see which one they want the most that day. This is the time of year when we really get into throwing that red trap as well. So there's your 3 baits for up shallow. And then here's a few baits for a little bit deeper water. The jig. The jig is always going to be tied on as well when I get to the cold time of year. So this is kind of the green and brown. Once our water gets down into probably the 55 mark and below, I will then transition into my black and blue colors. I throw those all winter long. I throw black and blue. But right now I'm still going with the old green and brown color jig. That's a smash crawl trailer. You can see it's kind of missing a little piece of one of the claws there is gone. So it's been getting chewed on a little bit. Then let's talk about this. If you want to go try to catch the biggest bass of your lifetime, if you guys saw the Facebook post the other day of the little boy that caught a 6, a 7, and an 8 in a half-day morning, big flutter spoons. Big flutter spoons on an offshore structure, they're eating them right now, guys. We're really catching some giant fish. We don't catch a lot of fish every day on it. Some days we don't catch any on it. But when they're biting good offshore, if you get out there offshore and they're biting, and you want to catch a giant, pick that big flutter spoon up. It will absolutely do the job. And then I've got a new jigging spoon that I'm throwing from Joe Spades. I got Joe Spades. He's got some jigging spoons up there. And I got this one. It's got silver on one side and chartreuse on the other. So as it does its jigging spoon thing and kicks around down there, it flashes both colors at them. And man, it does a phenomenal job. It's catching all species. This thing is catching crappie and catfish and bass and yellow bass and white bass. I mean, it's literally catching every game fish in the lake right now. Old jigging spoon, that's a 3/4 ounce one there, but just a phenomenal color that Joe put together on that one. So check out Joe Spades. You know, he doesn't just make the flutter spoons. He's got some jigging spoons that are phenomenal as well. So. Somebody says, can you fish shallow with a Texas rig? Of course you can fish shallow with a Texas rig. I fish Texas rig a lot in the spring. I fish it a lot in the summer. For whatever reason, I turn to the jig in the fall and the winter. It's just kind of my seasonal patterns, my preference of how I go about doing it. But yeah, you can fish any depth with a Texas rig, honestly. There is no restrictions. One of the most versatile techniques of all time. Somebody says, what size spinnerbait works best right now? Spinnerbait bite, there is a spinnerbait bite. I have not gotten so much onto the spinnerbait bite as others have. I know some other guys have really caught them good on spinnerbaits this fall. But for me in the fall, I like a 1/4 ounce spinnerbait with small blades. I do really well on that. But we're kind of getting to that time of year where I transition into the 3/8 ounce with the big willow blades where, like I said, those thread fins are starting to migrate out a little bit. So we're starting to focus more on the bigger baits, the brim and the gizzard shad. So I like to throw the bigger size willow blades on a 3/8 ounce or even sometimes a 1/2 ounce spinnerbait. Joe Ezernak says he can't wait till Monday. That's right, buddy. We're going to get after him. Okay. Is my rod a medium heavy on? That's a six. The jig I'm throwing is the 6 cents hybrid jig. I've really gone to this jig for everything. It has a beveled head so I can drag it out deep like a football jig, but it's got a triangular head so I can flip it in timber and get it through the heavy cover out there and all that type of stuff. So this hybrid jig is phenomenal. Santone makes a great jig. J-Laugh says Santone. If I'm throwing a pure football head jig, I do throw a Santone 100%. But on my swim jig, I throw the 6 cents Divine swim jig. And then on my flipping jig, and I've even kind of gotten rid of the football jig for this one right here, the hybrid jig. So from 6 Cents Lures. Somebody said, oh, still waiting on my graph set. Yes, you are. I'm trying to get an electronics guru to do a video with me on the electronic setup one, because I have mine set up the way I like them, but I'm not nearly as well versed and knowledgeable on why you set them certain ways and some of the troubleshooting issues that different graphs may have. So I'm going to get a guy to come on and film with me that knows a lot more about electronics than I do, so I can give you guys as much knowledge as possible. So it is taking a long time to get that together. I apologize for that. Hopefully sometime this winter we'll be able to knock that video out for you. Am I booked every day? No, I am not booked. I've actually got I've got some openings in December. I have a busy schedule setting up some business stuff for next year in December, so I'm not going to spend as many days on the water. But I do have some days available for guide trips. So if you guys are interested in a December guide trip, which is a very good time of year to fish, a very good time of year to catch a big fish, you can get unlucky with post-frontal weather sometimes where it makes it really tough. But for the most part, day in, day out, December is a really good time of year to fish. And really throughout the cold. I love fishing the cold time of year on Fork because, man, we catch some giant bass in the cold part of the year. So if you guys want a guide trip, hit me up, text me, call me, email me, whatever you need to do. What do more bass relate to in the fall, wood or depth? That's actually a really good question. So here's an answer for you on Fork, for specifically to Fork or any lake like Fork. When you go to Lake Fork, there is timber basically everywhere. Ignore it. Pretend it's not there. When you're deciding where you want to fish, what are the fish relating to? Ignore it. Do they relate to the wood? Absolutely they do. But the deal is they have wood everywhere they go. So really focus on the bottom contours, the points, the creek channel bends, the humps, the road beds, different structures that they might be using. Focus on those and then fish the timber that's present within those areas, because that's what those fish are doing. They're just moving through the lake doing their thing, and they're going to use whatever cover is available. Now, if there was a section of the lake that didn't have any timber, would they tend to congregate where it is? Most likely, yes. But on Lake Fork, there's timber all over the lake, so you can't really do that. So you have to kind of ignore all that cover, pick where you fish based on the structure, and then fish the cover that is available on that structure. Appreciate you, Drew Dempsey. Mojo, what up, dog? Somebody wants me to go to Louisville in December. Want to see me fish Old Lake Louisville? I have never fished Louisville. We'll have to see if we can make that happen. I'm supposed to be going to Ray Roberts in December. I was supposed to actually be going here a couple weeks ago, but it didn't work out scheduling-wise with the guy I was supposed to go with. So we're going to try to hit Ray Roberts, and we will do our best to hit Louisville as well. What's my number? My number is 903-519-1542. 903-519-1542. Should you be using a crankbait? Yes, a crankbait. See, there's so many baits we can use right now for our top 5. But here just recently, within the last week, they have really started biting the 6 Cents Movement 80X. So a shallow water crankbait's getting bit. Medium depth crankbait is also great in the fall. The MD250 from 6 Cents is the one I use for that. But the Movement 80X has been catching a lot of fish just here real recently. So Nick Cavazos is in the house, in the building. Looks like we're having a little bit of signal issue. I hope everything's coming through all right. Somebody let me know, is picture and audio, everything coming in good? Because every once in a while it looks like I'm getting a little bit of signal interference. And you guys pop a few more questions in there. I'll be happy to answer them. All right. We've reached the awkward time of the live stream. Good here, Sean Allen. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it. Perfect. That's what I'm talking about. All right. Anybody else got any more questions? Been catching them on the L7 at Ray Roberts. Yeah, movement L7. Another crankbait gets down just a little bit deeper than the 80X will. The 80X, I really find it goes to 2 to 3 foot at the most. That L7 will get down there in that 5-6 foot range if you really work it right. Fishing a new lake would be a cool vid, watching you break it down, especially a lake without a lot of grass like Louisville. Y'all want me to go somewhere without grass so I don't just keep fishing grass all the time? You guys tired of watching me fish grass? All right, somebody's going to pour some swim baits. We appreciate you watching. Snell it or not? What are we asking about snell? I like the snell stuff that I flip, like Texas rigs and punching rigs and stuff like that. But I don't snell much anything else. Billy grass, that's right. I like to fish that billy grass. Throwing the glide bait at all right now. Joined late, so didn't catch the top 5. Go to Natchitoches. If I go to Natchitoches, I'm pretty sure I'll be fishing grass. So, throwing the glide bait, yes. I have not got the glide bait bite going, but I am throwing it a little bit every day to try and get it going. I would anticipate any day. Any day. It usually correlates really well with a jerk bait. So if they're biting a jerk bait, you can up your size by throwing a glide bait. That's kind of the rule of thumb for me. There's exceptions to that. They bite glide baits at other times, but I mean, I'm really looking forward to that, and hopefully we'll get that going just any day. It's definitely on my deck every day right now. Joseph Lehue says they did. Oh, so Joseph Lehue, old Mojo Fishing, he was going to Lake Welsh and asking me what he should throw via text, and I told him to throw a fluke and a baby brush hog, and he said they bit the fluke. So apparently, if you're going to Lake Welsh, throw a fluke because they're eating it. For flipping, yes, snell it. What's my go-to rod for punching? For punching, I really like to get, all the power I can get. You can do it with like a 7.4 heavy, like the 7.4 limit heavy rod. I do it with that a lot. That's an easy rod to handle if you're new to it for flipping and all that. But if you really want to get serious about it and you want to get the biggest fish up out of the heaviest cover, the 711 Extra Heavy Limit 5 Series. It's a $150 rod, and that thing has got so much power, it's ridiculous. Do I ever come up north? I have never come up north. I'm assuming by up north you mean like Minnesota or somewhere like that. I have not ever been up that way for fishing. And I would imagine that right now would not be a good time to come that way for bass fishing. What would I use on Joe Pool? Well, I don't know much about Joe Pool. I bet Mojo Fishing can answer that in the comments because he fishes there a bunch. Like the Great Lakes? No, I've never been to the Great Lakes. I've never caught a smallmouth, actually. If that tells you, that ought to answer your question right there. I need to get up there, though. It's on my bucket list to go up there and get on some of them big browns. Joe Pool, Mojo, I'm hoping you'll type something in here and tell us what to fish on Joe Pool. I don't know much about Joe Pool. I know it's got some big fish, but I don't know much about how the lake lays out, what type of structure it has or anything like that. Lake Erie, come up and you'll get me on some. Who's that? Will Yontek. Man, I honestly might have to take you up on that. That I want to do it so bad. If I get the time and opportunity, I will jump all over that, brother, and I appreciate that offer. Have I ever fished Lake Falcon? Yep. I fished it a bunch a long time ago. It's pretty phenomenal when it's right. It's definitely a streaky lake. It's really good and sometimes really bad, but Lake Falcon, when it's right, may be the best lake in the world. So, all right, you guys keep popping the questions. We'll keep answering them. We're knocking them out tonight in quick order. If you guys want shirts, by the way, they're on the website, yourlakeforkguide.com. You can go order The hooded, dry fit, long sleeve, quarter zip shirts, man, they are so nice. I'm bad salesman tonight. I didn't wear one, but all right. So for Joe Poole, Mojo Fishing says chartreuse squarebill crankbait is probably best thing to throw right now around any rocks, especially next to the boat ramp, especially when it's being used a lot. Wow, that's pretty neat. That's some good info. We appreciate that, Joe. Hey, Mojo was a guy that I don't want to take too much credit because he's done a lot of the work on his own. Well, he's done the vast majority of the work on his own, but I kind of taught him how to bass fish. The first time he came to see me, my first year I was guiding, he didn't know how to throw a bait caster. And we had a great time that day, and I've tried to help him as much as I could along the way. And now he's about to graduate high school, and he is a really, really good angler, and he's a good dude. So Mojo is a big contributor to the community, and we certainly appreciate him. All right, let's see. Any more questions? Any more questions? All right, so I'm going to tell you guys a story. That was one of the coolest guide trips that I've had in a long time. The other day, Wednesday, I had an AM half day, the day before Thanksgiving, and I had a dad and two sons. Now, the youngest son, I think he was like 11. The older one was like 15. But the younger one, he showed up. He had a broken ankle. This kid had a broken ankle. But he was no way going to miss this fishing trip. These guys, they're not fishermen. They don't fish a lot. In fact, the youngest kid fished more than the other two did. So he was definitely the most into the bass fishing trip. He wanted to be here for it. He wasn't going to miss it. So he's sitting down all day with his broken ankle, fishing the best he can. And we get on some deep fish, and they're there. I mean, they're there. There's bait there. Everything's right. I'm like, this fixing to go down. This kid was literally dropping a flutter spoon beside the boat, just dropping it vertically and reeling it up and dropping it, reeling it up and dropping it, using a spinning reel. He'd reel it up, open the bail, and it'd drop. This kid caught a 6-pound 2-ounce. He'd never caught anything close to that big. He caught a 7-pound 2-ounce, and he caught an 8-pound 11-ounce bass doing that. Meanwhile, his dad and brother were hooking up on big fish and losing them. We had like 7 or 8 bites. They were all in the same 6 to 8 pound category. It could have been one of the most biggest bags of my guiding career as far as customers solely catching the fish, especially considering their experience level. But either way, he put the 3 big ones in the boat. The other 2 guys, they lost 4 combined big ones. But they were chewing that day. It was one of those fall home run days where it was just boom, boom, boom. And then the half-day trip was over and we had to bounce. But it took us a long time to find them that morning. Went for a long time with nothing. And that's fall fishing, guys. We went forever without getting a bite. And then all of a sudden, we had like 7 bites. And they were all in the 6 to 8 pound class. And, an hour and a half, 2 hours. So that's fall fishing. You just keep moving and keep fishing hard and keep, really being focused. And when it comes down to it, even an 11-year-old with a broken ankle can put the big ends in the boat when it's fall and they start biting. So, DTX Angler dropping in $5 on the super chat. Yeah, if you guys ever want to donate to the super chat, it's in there. I do appreciate it. I don't expect it, but I really appreciate that, man. That's phenomenal. We appreciate you participating in the community and everything that we ever collect in super chat. All the money that comes through the ad rates on YouTube and all that. It goes right back into the videos, guys. I don't take any of it for me. I use it for equipment and for, just whatever may have you. Try, getting to other lakes and stuff like that is what I use those funds for. So if you guys ever want to contribute, we really appreciate that as well. So thank you, DTX Angler. Appreciate that. In your opinion, January, February, or March, what's better for a giant bass? Well, so it goes like this. As far as is January, February, or March better for a giant, it goes like this. There's more giants caught in March. There's more 10-plus pound fish caught in March than any other month around here on Fork, in other lakes in this area. But there's a lot more people fishing in March. The big fish are spawning in March most of the time. So the odds go up of us crossing paths with them because of that. I honestly think if you're looking for a true freak of nature possibility at a teenager, January might be the best time. I think you have a better chance of catching a 10 plus in March, but you have a better chance of catching a like teenager or something crazy, which I've never done, by the way, in January. If you just look back at the historical records, there's the percentage of the teenage fish that are caught in January is so much higher than it is, in March compared to the percentage of 10-pounders caught in January to March. So those truly giant fish, for whatever reason, I mean, I know the reason is because they're gestating a lot of eggs. And the bigger the bass, the more eggs they gestate and the more they have to eat. But that's the reason they're feeding. But for whatever reason, man, those big fish, they eat in January and February and, of course, going into March. So I think March is your odds-on best bet to just go out and catch big fish every day. But if you're just looking for one crazy, stupid big fish of a lifetime, you could make an argument for January. Fishing Rayburn in the morning, throwing some Smash Tech for the first time on that lake. What's your take on it? Well, I haven't been to Rayburn in years, but I did fish it quite a bit growing up. I know a little bit about the lake. I know about its tendencies a little bit, but I don't have really current knowledge for you. But what I will tell you is this. Anytime you're fishing swim baits in the fall, I'm going to look for a lot of grass at the right levels. What you want is a window. You want that grass to not be all the way to the surface. You want grass to be growing up and there to be some space between the top of the grass and the surface. You're going to look for that type of area with the best possible water clarity you can find. The clearer the water, the better for swim baits. That's kind of what I'm going to start looking for. If I was going there throwing swim baits tomorrow, that's what I would be searching out, and I would keep moving until I found something that made me happy with that. Somebody's asking me about smallmouth. I've never caught a smallmouth. If you're fishing in Wisconsin, I would imagine it's full-on winter bite, jerk bait, small jig, something like that for a smallmouth. I don't know. I'm just throwing a smooth guess out there. I have no clue about smallmouth, to be honest with you. Yes, limit rods are on sale. If you go to the limitfishing.com website, they're having a huge, huge sale. So if you're interested in limit rods and you want to try one out, now would be a great time. It's the best value in the game on rods already, and now you're going to get them on sale. So double the value, double the fun with Double McGum for whoever remembers that commercial. But yeah, so that's limit rods. If you want one, go to limitfishing.com. They got a big sale going on right now. 15 to 20 feet is still where I'm kicking. So with the cold fronts, we had a cold front last week. We're kind of fishing in the post front the last few days. By the way, I was off the water yesterday and today. First time I've had 2 days off the water, and I can't even remember when. But it's been kind of nice. Took a little time off for the holiday, so that was cool. But 15 to 20 foot is the depth, but we're at the bottom end of 20 foot. Like I'm at 19, 20 is where I'm wanting my structure to peak out. That's where I'm finding my fish right now. Let's see. First time on the live. We appreciate you joining us, Fish Bite. Have I lived in Texas my whole life? More or less. I was in college in Nebraska for a little while, playing a little ball. Very short-lived. I was not a very good student. And I had some injuries that took me out of football and baseball. And once I didn't have football and baseball, I had no motivation to stay in college. So it did not work out very well for me there. But I also, when I was in the Marine Corps, of course, lived in some different places. Mainly, my place of residence was Beaufort, South Carolina. And so I did some fishing there. I did some inshore saltwater fishing. I did some bass fishing there. We had a lot of ponds on our base that I was stationed on when I was in the Marine Corps. And we also fished some of the lakes around there. Santee Cooper was my favorite by far. I love Santee Cooper, all the cypress trees and everything. It was really unique fishery that I got a kick out of. But yeah, so there you go. I did do some fishing over there. I didn't do any fishing in my other travels in the Marine Corps because it was all training related or deployment related, and nobody had time for that. Hoorah, killer. Appreciate that. Mojo's loving the Limit 5 series. We got Mojo on fishing the Limit 5 series now, and the Limit. He's fishing the Limit series of rods, and he said he's loving them. So we're glad you like them, buddy. I never went up to Lake Norman. No, I never left the state. I'm trying to think. There was another lake that we fished over there, just a handful of times. Maybe it was Lake Wiley. I don't know. I can't remember. There was another pretty big lake that we fished over there. We did a lot of pond fishing, honestly. The vast majority of our fishing we fished day in, day out in ponds over there a lot because we had a bunch of them on our base. We did a lot of saltwater fishing for cobia, and we did a little bit of red fishing and trout fishing and shark fishing. I would book your guide trip in March. Carl Renfro, if I was looking to book a guide trip January, February, March, I would definitely suggest March. Now, you're going to have to book really early to get a trip in March because we book up fast for that time of year. But March is your safest bet to have a good quality trip. You have a very good shot at a giant 10-pound type bass, as good as you can. I mean, 10 pounds of special fish happens a handful of times a year for guys like me. So no guarantees on the 10, obviously. You can't do that. But less risk of bad weather, less risk of everything else. The odds are your day will be a very good day if you book a trip in March. Fork will be fine tomorrow. It's not a hard front. Somebody's asking how will Fork be tomorrow with the front coming in. I think Fork's going to be fine. I think it's going to fish just fine. You may have to go to the offshore structure stuff. Those shallow water fish get more affected by the fronts than the deeper fish do. I would start out up shallow early in the morning with the buzz bait, or honestly with the chatterbait and the wacky worm is probably what I'd start with in the morning. And then I would go to fishing deep fairly early in the morning, stay there most of the midday period, and then in the afternoon, going in the evening, and go back up shallow, where you can catch them honestly a lot of different ways. You can catch them on that movement crankbait. You can catch them on the chatterbait, the wacky worm, of course. You can catch them on topwater poppers. You can catch them on buzzbaits. You can catch them on frogs. There's a lot of ways to do it in the evenings. Those fish are really feeding up shallow late in the day. How much do I charge? So my rates are for one or two people, same rate. $450 for a full day, $300 for a half day. I don't think, somebody else is asking about the front. I don't think the front's going to be a big deal tomorrow, honestly. I mean, it's hard to say that because post-frontal conditions this late in the fall always seem to affect them pretty bad. But this one doesn't seem like, the north one's not going to blow that hard. It's not a big temperature change. It's just not a lot of oomph behind this front. So fingers crossed, thinking positively, we should still catch them pretty good tomorrow. Super spook or a buzzbait? I like a buzzbait a lot this time of year. I like it in the fall. So if I was picking between a super spook or a buzzbait, I mean, I could be dead wrong. You can catch them better on a spook, but I really like the buzzbait this time of year. Alrighty. Well, I guess we're going to wrap that up, guys. That's going to be it. So we appreciate you watching as always. Somebody threw in $5 into the super chat, so appreciate that. Like I said, go get your shirts if you haven't already. Shirts are on the website, yourlakeforkguide.com. Hey, we appreciate you watching. I love you for watching it, buddy. I appreciate you. I see you down there in the last comment. But, yeah, shirts, yourlakeforkguide.com on the Shop My Gear page. Check that out. Order on PayPal is still the only way to get payment to me right now. So I appreciate you guys that are doing that and the ones that will. Appreciate all of you for watching, asking your questions. I hope they helped. It's good to see some of you guys helping each other in the comments over here on the side. I love that because that's what it's about. Building this community where we just help each other catch more fish and love our fellow man, because that is what we do. So can't say thanks enough. We'll see you guys next time. Have a good video coming on Monday, so y'all watch for that. And we will see you next time right here on Your Lake Fork Guide.